There have been couples on the famous TLC 90 Day Fiancé that totally won the hearts of the audience. However, there have also been couples that made us question, how did these people choose one another in the first place? Today we're gonna focus on the scummiest couples featured on 90 Day Fiancé. Number 5. Muhammad and Danielle. Since the very beginning, the two had their differences. Both Danielle and Muhammad lied to each other from the very start. Danielle lied about her financial situation to a guy half her age. Meanwhile, Muhammad showed fake affection towards his fiancée. Other than that, both of them had several fights all throughout their short-lived relationship. There were fights in inappropriate language in front of Danielle's kids, as well as in front of the show host while millions of people watched them. Without a doubt, Danielle and Muhammad's relationship was filled with tons of disputes, and eventually the two got separated. Danielle has filed several cases against Muhammad for betraying her and using her to get access to the United States. Number 4. Ed and Rose. By just looking at their appearances, one could judge that Ed and Rose were a complete misfit for one another. While Ed was short and overweight, Rose was taller and skinnier. Not just this, the two had a huge age gap to consider. Even after all the differences, Ed felt himself attracted to this girl in the Philippines. Thus, he used to send her gifts worth thousands of dollars, and even gave a visit to her country. However, after the visit, the story took a complete turn. At first, the two looked completely involved, but there were certain things Ed couldn't let go. Rose lived in an unhygienic, poor household, which Ed wasn't used to. Not only this, even her bad breath and unshaved legs were kind of unacceptable for him. Nonetheless, their relationship finally ended when Rose discussed her greatest desire, and Ed was nowhere near ready to consider it. Rose wanted 2 kids from Ed. Meanwhile, Ed was looking forward to getting a vasectomy done, and had already booked an appointment with the doctor. Number 3. George and Anfisa. One of the most famous stories includes George and Anfisa. It was pretty clear that Anfisa was into George for his money. She wanted him to buy her fancy clothes and jewelry, while George himself was in debt and had lied about it earlier. In fact, George was sent to prison for dealing drugs. George visited a divorce lawyer and at some point wanted to get away from her. Anfisa was dominant and wanted things done her way. Their relationship was questionable and confusing at many instances during the show. Number 2. Mark and Nikki. Another odd couple that made it to the set of 90 Day Fiancé was Mark and Nikki. Nikki was 1/3 of Mark's age. She was a teenager, while Mark was near his retirement days, so the two of them had different mindsets. On more than one occasion, it was seen that Mark handled her like he would handle one of his kids. He stopped her from touching his car windows. Moreover, the weirder part was that he got Nikki the same car he got his ex-wife, and even gave her worn clothes of his daughter. What Mark was trying to do is totally out of the question. Number 1. Colt and Larissa. Colt and Larissa dated for a few days in Mexico, and Colt didn't waste any time in proposing to her. After the two were together, it was unlike what they expected. Their story was short-lived and filled with persistent fights. Fights to such an extent that Larissa was sent to prison 3 times for domestic abuse. Larissa wanted a fancy and luxurious lifestyle. Meanwhile, Colt lived with cats, his mother, and many people having an interference in his life. And as expected, the two ended up going their separate ways. These were without any doubt the scummiest couples on 90 Day Fiancé. From watching them the first time till the end, one could easily predict that there was no happily ever after.